Thank you, everybody, for staying for the full day. And this is the last talk of the day. I hope you guys all had very useful and good experience today at Summit and have some fun plans for the night. There is a lot of things to do in Vegas, of course. So for the presentation today, we have Mostafa from BNY Mellon and Saurabh from AdTech. And they're going to talk about how they enable DevSecOps at BNY Mellon. So with that, I'll leave it to them. We're probably going to have a few minutes after the talk. And we can do some live Q&A if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Arseny. So I'm so glad to be here today. What a beautiful weather out there. And you folks are lucky to be here because we will be talking about the next-gen automation that we implemented in our company using Jira Software and how we enable DevSecOps using Jira Software. Raise your hand if you ever left home thinking, did I open my door or did I leave my garage door open? Okay, so most of us been there before. So what that means that we all aware of the security. Okay, we are the one who is responsible for the security, and I remember the other day, I was in the mall and using my ATM card, paying the bill. I look at left and right and left before I punch in my keypad, pin. And also I put my hand to make sure that nobody is watching. So we are responsible and we have to protect our assets, whether we are in personal life or you are in professional life. Our responsibility to make sure that we act appropriately to secure our assets, and we all are responsible for the security. Now, how many of you are here in the audience play a security role, like any kinds of security? Okay, cool. Oh, that's good. And how many of you are using Jira, user or administrators? Okay, I think 95% of you are Jira administrators. So today's session is very important for you. And I'm happy that you made it to this session because you will be learning how we implemented the automation using Jira Software, which brought efficiency to our company and enable developers so that way we can protect our applications. So no matter what role you play, you might be developers, doing the coding. You are in control of what you deploy in production. Are you doing your pre-commit checks? Are you running the scanning that you're supposed to run? Or you are just checking it in and deploying in production, not doing the security scan, the code quality scan, reducing the security vulnerabilities before you deploy to the production. As a developer, you are in control, and your responsibility to make sure that you protect your company applications. Whether you are monitoring your applications, or you are part of the production support. You are responsible because are you looking at the logs proactively, making sure there is no unauthorized access, your authorization and authentications are appropriately, all the transactions are going on according to your company policies. You are responsible. And as a security analyst, obviously, our responsibility not to do the administrative work, our responsibility to make sure that we enable developers so that way they can identify and remediate security vulnerabilities at the time of the development lifecycle, early in the phase. And mostly we educate, as a security analyst, we educate developers to be more proactive. And when you have developers, security analysts, and operations together, that creates DevSecOps, which is what we're going to talk about. And this is what will enable and empower the development team as well as the security team for the automation. And in terms of application security, there was a study done last year in 2018, and they stated that it was higher probability to get into the data breach than getting flu in the winter. So what that means is if we are not proactively protecting our applications, we have higher chances that someone, the bad guys out there, that they're trying to inject your network infrastructure, your applications, they will not wait no time. So the security, application security, it is very important. And to protect your applications, there are hundreds of different criteria, parameters that you can run to make sure that your application is secured. SQL injection, the cross-site scripting, and also if you are using open source components in your applications, and you are using it because it's free, but free comes with some cost. So you have to make sure that those open source components are secure. And you have to scan them. You have to make sure that they are up to date. You have to make sure that there is no security vulnerabilities and no license file violation. And obviously, if you look at this picture, as software development lifecycle, we all are familiar with. We all are familiar with continuous integration, continuous deliveries, CI/CD automation. So typically, what companies do, they run security scan right before they deploy to production. And what happens? You don't have enough time to mitigate those security vulnerabilities. So ended up, you deploy the applications just to satisfy the business at hard delivery dates. You have the security vulnerabilities, and you all aware of what happened in 2018, what happened in 2017. There are a lot of companies, they lost brand name, and it's very costly to get back your brand name into the market. So what DevSecOps enable you, that you enable security scan at the time of the development. So when developers doing the coding on their IDE, they should be able to scan their source code during the compile, and then identify the security vulnerabilities and remediate at the time of the development. You can also add security scanning part of the build pipeline. So, as soon as you check in or before pre-commit, you get the build run, part of the CI automation, and then it will scan and give you the results before you commit to the master. So you are doing that ahead of time. Then you can always run another scanning right before you deploy to the production. By the time you do that, you will be better off, and your application will be more secure.
Now, some of the benefits when you implement DevSecOps into your life cycle is implementing DevSecOps. What does it do? It basically enables developer to do security scanning much easier, which basically helps them to do more scanning throughout the year. Now, if you see the blue line, you can easily say that if you increase the frequency of scanning that you're doing, the number of open flaws at the end of year is very less. It's actually below 20%. And another report, 2017 EMA report, says that if you implement DevSecOps into your life cycle, it improves your ROI and it improves operational efficiencies. And when you are implementing DevSecOps, like when you go ahead and think of implementing DevSecOps into your company, you have certain things which comes to your mind initially, and you're thinking like, should I implement or should I not implement? So these things I'll cover to tell you, like, these are not the hindrances or problems that you should think about. The first one is security takes time. It's truth. It does take time. But when we implement DevSecOps into the mix, what it does is, having all these security vulnerabilities find out at initial phase of the SDLC, you're getting all the vulnerabilities at the right time, and you're able to improve everything in the initial phases. Whereas normally companies doing the security as a second thought, like doing pre-production or pre-release, they have to introduce new sprint cycles into their development, adding more time to it. So having DevSecOps reduces time. The next one is it adds cost. Now, the way I see it is more like you pay $1 million now, or you can pay $10 million later. And one of the best examples is ransomware. Now, not doing the proper security scanning on the applications, you have to pay a certain fine that your application gets hacked, or they find a vulnerability, and you have to pay certain fines or probably ransom to different companies. Another point to that is like you lose the brand of the software. The best example for that is Equifax. They released I don't know, millions of records outside in the open, and now everyone already knows that Equifax is the company where you don't want to share your records with. The next one is reduces innovation. Now, there is a concern from developers that when you implement, when you ask to have so much restrictions or rules put into the development cycle, you are basically reducing innovation. They are not able to do anything. Their hands are tied. But when we implement DevSecOps into this mix, what happens is it enables developer to do the scanning at the initial phases itself. So they are coding, and they're able to find the vulnerability, like the open source component is vulnerable. They can change at that point of time, enabling them to put in new code and add stuff to it. Now, we understand that DevSecOps is basically reducing time, reducing cost, and promoting innovation in the long run. But what was our need so that we even thought of choosing the DevSecOps route?
Yeah, so we understand the value of the DevSecOps, and as you all understand now that it is important to do shift left and inject security during development lifecycle. And that brings opportunity in our company to look at how we are dealing with the security today, and are there any improvements that we can do? So there are pockets of excellence within the company, different line of businesses, but the enterprise-wide, we were thinking about, I think it is time for us to understand why some of the applications teams are not meeting the deadline when time comes to remediate the security vulnerabilities. Because every security vulnerabilities has the priority or the due date based on the severity. If it's critical, it has certain time limit. High, certain time limit. Medium, certain time that you have to remediate. And so we sat down with applications team and get their feedback. We talk to the project managers, get their feedback, and have a discussion with the application security team, and understand that there are pockets of excellence there in the company, but we do a lot of manual steps from the scanning up to the remediation. So we decided, can you automate at least when you do the scanning, if we find any security vulnerabilities, is there an automated way to get these findings right onto the development queue, so that way they can act on it immediately. So, and then get rid of the manual steps. Forget about the spreadsheet or PDF or Word document. And we all agreed that it's needed. And what tool can do that? So we look at the different tool sets that we have in BNY Mellon. We look at outside tools, but we decided on Jira because it was being used by a lot of applications within the company. And the applications team, they are familiar with the Jira board. They're running their Agile, Kanban, and Scrum using Jira. So we decided that Jira would be the best tool to automate that scanning findings. And obviously, all the Jira administrators here, you know that Jira is REST API enabled. We can build a plugin and add that to Jira, and Jira has the capacity to connect with the other systems. So, we started the automation with Jira, and we are looking at, is there anyone can help us with? So we partner with, we get some help with our local Atlassian partner, AdTech. Saurabh came in, and we worked together and implemented the solution from the scanning to the app dev team.
Yeah. So what we actually did, what's the actual solution that we implemented into BNY Mellon, is we started at the beginning. We integrated all the scanning tools that they were using with Jira. Now, to do that, we used 3 APIs that was available. The first one is the REST API. The next one is backend script. We used Jira plugin. So anything which was available to us, we used that and selected the easiest route to have all the issues from scanning tools directly into Jira. Now, when we have all these scanning tools into Jira, there are still certain pieces of information that was needed for issue to be complete. And to get that certain information, we actually had to integrate with 2 separate systems, the below ones if you see, which basically reduces the manual steps done by the security analyst team to go into different systems and get those information or do some calculation. And so what we did is Jira automatically goes to different system, gets that information, updates the issue. Also, we, BNY Mellon being a financial company, we had to make sure that the issues created for application A is not being shared by team B or team C. So to do that, we use the security architecture that is already available in Jira, that 3 levels. But to get that information that this issue belongs to application A and the other one belong to application B, we had to integrate the information source system, which basically enables us all the findings coming from this tool are mostly for application A, so you have to restrict all the other teams. Now, the example you see on the screen, the severity priority, the app component, the application name, these are all high-level information that everyone needs to understand what the issue is and who does it belong to. On the rightmost side, you see that there's a remediation start date, that's due date, that's the calculation that's needed by the security team for every issue which is coming in. And if you see on the screen, there's also information like line number, the finding scope, the file name. These are all the informations which are needed by the developers where they have to go into the code and what they have to fix. We add a little bit of information from the security analyst side, which is related to the remediation of the issues. Now, what you see on the screen is BNY implements Jira Federation architecture, where we have multiple Jiras working together in synchrony. And what we implemented is we implemented Jira 1AS, that's AppSec Jira, Application Security Jira. So all the issues are coming into that Jira. It's acting as a warehouse, and then we are syncing it across different Jiras to application development teams. We are creating issues directly into their project, where a project lead can see those issues and assign those issues to the resource. Now, the workflow that we are using, so this workflow is basically shared across different Jiras. If you see on the high level that it looks very simple, and there's nothing much to it. But underneath, there is I would say, 15 to 20 steps related for every transition that's happening on the workflow. I'll cover one of the simple flow that I could think of. That's the false positive workflow. For those people who are not from the security team or like doesn't have security knowledge, false positive is something kind of an anomaly where a security finding comes in, like detected by the scanning tool. That is because of the environment or network or some random reason which is not supposed to be fixed by a developer. It's more because of some random thing which happened in the environment while the issue was being scanned. Now, all the issues coming into Jira comes in open state. A developer sees that finding and says, okay, this is not a finding which I have to fix. This is a false positive. So he'll just move the issue to the false positive review state, giving his comment saying that this is the reason why I consider this finding as a false positive. After that, the security analyst team receives an email saying that this is the issue which has been moved to this state, and this is a comment on it. The security analyst goes on to Jira, and he can basically accept or reject the issue, opening or closing, depending on what he sees that the comment is valid or not. We also made sure that any transition that's happening on this workflow is in sync with the scanning tools. So now we have all the data in the Jira, everyone is working on it, but that data is still more useful to other people. So we also integrate our Jira to different reporting softwares where they can do something complex as big data analysis or something simple as just showing on a dashboard the summary of all the findings that we have in Jira. Now, I'll give you the whole architecture, connect the points if you missed anything. The first is we have an application. We do a scanning. We get the list of findings. We import it into Jira through one of the ways. Then we go to different separate systems, bring that little pieces of information, adding that to the issue, validating that information is right, and then syncing across different Jira applications. Then the same data is being shared to separate softwares. Now, I'll cover some of the challenges that we face, and hopefully that will help you to, like, if you are going to implement the DevSecOps in your company, and then you can avoid all of these. The first one is vendor API limitation. The vendor API limitation is more towards, like, we have all the data in the scanning tools that we can see everything, but when we are hitting the API of the scanning tool, it's not coming into Jira. They are providing half the information, or they are providing no information at all. So we were constantly working with different vendors to get that information into an API and make sure that we get everything into Jira. The second one is cleanups. So BNY Mellon being a large company, they have a good amount of archive data. And as we were implementing DevSecOps, there were new models, new architectures that were required to be implemented, which needed some kind of cleanups performed on the archive data. Now, this data was not in one system, as that was the initial problem. Now, we had to bring all the data into one system and make sure that data is up to date with the current standard that everyone's going to follow. So this is one of the things that we didn't do initially, but at the later point, we had to add a separate phase for it. The other one would be collaboration. Having all the team providing everything at the right time, like achieving their deliverables at the right time was a problem. So initially, it started normally. We had only 2 teams or one team to working on something, and they were working fine, and we were moving forward without a problem. But at a later stage, it became hodgepodge. We were getting, like, one team was working so fast that they provided everything in one day, and one team was working so slow that even after 2 months, we didn't have anything. So this is something which you have to put extra care on. The other one is infrastructure. We initially started with implementing the whole architecture on an existing Jira. When we started with that, we realized that there was so much data coming in that that particular Jira will slow down all the application development team will face problems when accessing that Jira. Now, to avoid that, we implemented a whole new Jira system later in the development cycle. The other one would be scope changes. The application development team have to be aware of the latest trends and everything. They had to come with new design and architectures, and every once a month or like thrice a month, they'll come with us, come to me and saying, okay, now we want this thing to be done in this way. And those scope changes keeps on adding again and again, which was delaying our release cycle. Now, the solution to this is have phases to it and be adamant about those phases and make any new change, put it onto a new cycle.
Okay, so the journey was successful, but it wasn't easy. So there was a bump in the way, but as we walked through, I think we were able to overcome those bumps. So the solution that we implemented, it's provided huge relief to so many different roles, including the security analyst. Now they're doing the work they're supposed to do. So before, they were scanning apps. At the same time, they were doing the follow-up with the applications team to make sure that the applications team remediate the security vulnerabilities on time within the SLA. Now, they don't have to do that follow-up. They don't have to extract data on Excel and PDF to hand it over to the applications team. They're doing their real work. They're working on the scans. They're educating developers to make sure that the developers can protect and run more scans on their applications. There is another huge smile that put on the senior management along with the regulator, because now you don't have to worry about the spreadsheet. We don't have to worry about the PDF. You have all the data that you need at the time of the scan and the time that the application team remediate those security findings. So you have all the data that you require with the full traceability.
We also made Jira as a one-stop shop for everyone. So this is like one of my favorite things which happened for this whole architecture. The app dev teams now doesn't have to go to different scanning tools. They can just go onto Jira, see the same UI, see the same flow, see the same everything, and they can just resolve the problem. Whereas previously, if there is a new scanning tool implemented into the mix, they'll have to go to the new scanning tool website or probably a finding document, and they have to see and search through the document, find that particular finding, and then resolve it. The other one is workflow. Previously, we were exchanging emails with documents in it. There were some documents that had the latest data, some of it did not. So it's more like a 5 or 6 hours conversation where they were tracking everything on documents which were not in a single place. Now, having this thing in Jira, they are just putting comments onto the same finding, and they are easily able to track that, yeah, we are talking about this finding, and we have done these things so far, which also keeps the regulatory happy because they can track everything. The other one is AppSec team. It enables AppSec team in such a way that they don't even have to go to the scanning tool for minor steps, like they want to approve some findings saying that this is accept a false positive workflow, or they can reject it over there only, and the same thing will happen on the scanning tool side.
Yeah, and one thing just wanted to add in terms of working on the same Jira. Now, app dev team, they are familiar with their board. So every application has their support team or the development team. They're working out of Kanban board or Scrum board. Now, when the scan happens, all the findings is sliding into their board and the backlog. So they can prioritize and then put them on the right sprint and work on this. So there is no email missing incident or missing attachment on the regarding the findings. So that put us efficient place that we can see today.
Yeah, and another thing, how much did we improve? If we were spending 2 hours, let's assume there's a team of 50 security analysts, and they were spending 2 hours on just generating and communicating those reports and doing follow-ups. Now they save 2 hours a day, and that's 100. But if we increase the same amount to a month, it's 2,200 hours. That's more than a week more than a year worth of security analyst time. And if we increase the same amount to a year, we get this huge, incredible number that's 26,200. What does it mean? It basically means that we saved 25% of the effort that was being put in by the security team.
Yep. So, so we all understand that every one of us is responsible for the security. And if you are using Jira software in your company, you can leverage that and go talk to the application security team, whether, if they are using any scanning tools, see if the scanning tool is REST API enabled. If it is, then you can connect all the findings directly into the Jira and automate that and put them part of the backlog for the applications team. And that will obviously, enable the DevSecOps in your company, and it will save time, and it will protect your applications, protect your brand, and at the end, you get the DevSecOps efficiency implemented in your company. So, we'll open up for Q&A. If you have any questions regarding this, Saurabh and myself will be out there for another 10 minutes after the session if you have any follow-up questions. So Arseny, we can open up for Q&A sessions.
Thank you so much, guys. So